Elderly man who lost everything in a fire finds one last shred of hope in the ashes. "83-year-old Ali Mace lived a simple life with his wife and son in a small town in western Turkey. One afternoon, tragedy struck the Mace family, and Ali watched as everything he worked for vanished in the blink of an eye. One morning, Ali was attempting to light a wood stove in his home so he could cook breakfast. He accidentally poured too much gasoline into the flame. The entire thing exploded, setting his house on fire. Ali and his family barely made it out alive. Ali's neighbors spotted the flames and immediately called for help. Firefighters showed up shortly after and extinguished the inferno, but by the time they were done, all that was left was a smoldering pile of wood. Ali stared in horror at the remains of his home. He couldn't believe that only a few hours earlier he was standing in the kitchen ready to cook breakfast for his family. Tears streamed down his face at the realization that he and his family were left with nothing. Everything that remained of his home was unrecognizable, and the Mace family was devastated. Not only was the family distraught over the loss of their home, but they'd also owned several cats, and there was no sign of any of them. The realization that all their beloved animals may have perished was too much for Ali to handle. He felt utterly distraught. His pets were like family members to him. However, among the devastation, there was one shining beacon of hope. Ali heard a scuffling sound underneath some of the wooden rubble. When he moved closer to the charred wood, one of his cats, Sarika's, came climbing out from underneath. Ali couldn't believe his eyes. It was really her. Ali was dumbfounded by the discovery. How had Sarika survived the fire when literally nothing else did? The lucky feline, whose name translates to blonde girl, couldn't stop purring. She was just as happy to see Ali after the terrifying ordeal. Sarika's immediately climbed into Ali's outstretched arms and nestled in. Even though she wasn't injured, she still needed some kind of comfort after surviving a life-threatening fire. Ali couldn't stop kissing Sarika's and clutching her close to his heart. She was one of his favorite pets, and even though his family was now homeless, he saw her as a sign of hope that things would turn out okay. Unfortunately, Ali and his family had to leave Sarika's so they could be rushed to the hospital so they could be treated for minor injuries. Members of the humanitarian group Turkish Red Crescent were there waiting to offer their assistance as well. The rescue team didn't come alone, however. They had a big surprise for the Mace family. While Ali and his family were being treated, rescuers brought along Sarika's. They cleaned her up and fed her a proper meal so she could be permanently reunited with her owners. The members of Turkish Red Crescent couldn't wait to finally bring the clean and cuddly Sarika's back to her owner, and the reunion was just incredible. Ali was beaming as he was handed his furry beacon of hope. Ali embraced his cat as though she were his child. The entire experience seemed surreal to him, but at least Sarika's was still part of his family's life. After all, she was all he and his family had left. Before Ali was released from the hospital, he sat down for some photos with the Turkish rescue team, who helped him through the tragedy and took care of his favorite cat while he was being treated at the hospital. Ali left the hospital with a bandaged right hand, but other than that, he was in good health, albeit slightly shaken up. Even though he had just survived a harrowing situation, he seemed happy. The surprises didn't end there either. The government sent a team to help Ali and his family find new living quarters, and a GoFundMe page was created to offer financial aid. So far, Ali's page has collected over $6,000. Ali's wife was happy he wasn't letting the tragedy ruin his positive attitude. Their family was becoming comfortable in their new home, and as long as Sarika's was around to snuggle, Ali didn't mind all the changes. It was incredible how Sarika's was able to change Ali's mood so drastically. When he thought back to the day of the fire, all he remembered was his heart shattering. But once he saw his cat, it was as if the pieces came back together. Ali and his family were incredibly lucky to be alive and healthy after such an awful event. Sarika's represented hope when it seemed like it had completely vanished, and each member of the family would never forget it.